All right, people, here we are back in this place, this time in the universe, for another episode of Iris of Our Eye, number 38. I double checked before starting. God bless my heart. It's been a 6-month hiatus of traveling and falling into some fear and about finances, basically, because I went to Mexico and that was a whole excursion, and I didn't make it as a life coach, forcing myself through all the things that I was going through at that time. So I stopped doing this because didn't find people. Should have done some stuff in LA, but didn't because I just let antisocial behavior control me. I'm not perfect, but here we are in the spring in Santa Cruz. I saw, hopefully it's on screen as I'm describing it, saying it for the people watching. If you're listening, it's a beautiful picture. It's like it kind of gave me a Northern Lights feel, if I remember correctly. Can't remember what it's called, but it's a picture by this wonderful artist right here, Melissa West, not East. West.
Not East. No.
Not Kanye.
No. Not Mae West either.
Yeah. There you go. Another person. So yeah, I found this picture in the Scotts Valley branch up there, their library, and I was like, that's dope. I want to talk to that person and get this shindig rolling again. So that's how I met this person. And we don't know each other besides meeting right here, right now for the very first time. So if it's awkward, oh well, what are we going to do? We're not perfect. Anything you want to say as an introduction? Because that's usually how I go about it.
Well, thank you for having me on. Like I said, my name is Melissa West. I'm an artist in Watsonville, actually, but the greater Santa Cruz, as it were. Mm-hmm. And I have been primarily a printmaker, but I was able to get some studio space recently, so I'm back to also painting, which I hadn't really done for like 15 years or so. So that painting that you mentioned, I just finished this past week, just in time to put it up at the library.
Nice.
So it was excellent timing. Amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very, very synchronistic. We're both getting back onto the horse, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hopefully you didn't fall as hard as I did. But...
No. I don't think so. From what you were saying, is like, whoa, that sounds like.
Love that. I love that. This is something that somebody told me a long time ago. That it's like you can either laugh or cry at your pain, and I'm a comedian, so I very much choose to try to just laugh at it and not let it. Obviously, to embody and take the lesson and wisdom as it comes, but just to not take life too seriously, because it's just like can be pretty brutal if you're let it beat you down.
It can be, and it's hard to remember the lesson that let it go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. So this is generally the first question that I just like to toss out, just to kind of like see where people are at and what they're doing and how they feel. So what is art to you?
What is art? Art is necessary.
True.
It is. What is it? It is putting your heart out to the universe and taking that risk of putting what you're thinking and feeling out there in a physical form. And hopefully it's the start of some conversations that people come and see it and have their own opinions about it, and then you go back and forth and talk about what do they see, what did you mean. And it's always interesting when people come and look at my work and meet me and talk about it, because they'll see different things entirely from what I meant, but they're not wrong.
Right.
So it's a the physical art is the beginning of the dialogue, and it goes from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's a lot of intelligence in the words that you just said. I feel like there's because 39 times whatever that I've done this, it's there's always the things of like the audience versus like what the initial thing meant to you, and then how it like hits everybody else's cognating brain thing and how they interpret it to what they think it means.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, like the physicality of like because you had said the universe, opening your heart to the universe.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious based on that tidbit if you ever feel like you're a channel for ideas, or if it's like totally just something that like you feel like you're individually creating, or if there's like a dialogue between you and the universe a little bit.
That's an interesting question. It's when I'm working, it's a little bit of both, and not in a conscious way. I mean, it's very much I will have an idea of something I want to do, and that's a very thought process, and you know, it's like, oh, here's this, and it works together with what I'm thinking, reading, what I'm doing, but I have to mull it around in my head for a long time. I mean, I'm not, I sort of work things out in my head rather than on paper. I don't have a lot of sketches and iterations. It's still just sort of circulating around, but in terms of being the channel, it's like all of a sudden it'll come together. So in that sense, you could sort of look at it as a channeling. It's just like thinking, and then it pops in entire, and like that's it. And then I put it on paper. So
Nice.
it's a interesting way to work. I know a lot of people who just have sketchbooks and do drawing, work it out, and for some whatever reason, I don't.
Everyone's got their own thing, right? Their own process.
Yes, exactly.
If that works for you, then don't let other people be like, you're doing it wrong.
Oh no, I ignore them.
Yeah.
And I admire people who maintain active sketchbooks because I don't know.
Yeah, that's their way. And
that's
like
their way, and they're beautiful. And it's like, wow, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, can't is whatever.
Well, maybe not can't, maybe, but
I don't want to. Yeah, like,
yeah, it's just. Or maybe I'm just too distractible, and having that discipline of sitting down and sketching every day, whatever
works.
it is.
Yeah. I mean, you know better than me. It's your way. Yeah, I feel like because I can't convince myself to do it because I'm too I don't know if proud is the right word. I'm just like I'm too much of the beginner of like I would stink at sitting down and like drawing every day, and I bought stuff to do it too and just didn't. But I think it would be cool to be able to like see the evolution of like, oh yeah, this is like 6 months ago and I was like really not great then, but now I'm like a little bit better in that idea of like going with a sketchbook.
No, and when I go back and it's like, oh, these are the sketches I do, I was like, why don't I do this more? But you do what you do.
We do what we do. Yep. Whether it's bad or good or indifferent. So I guess in doing what we do, how did you start doing what you do?
There are many answers to that. I mean, probably any artist you speak to, or most artists, who say I've drawn all my life.
Sure.
It's something I started out. I have sketches from when I was 4 or 5 years old and drawings, and so I've always done it. I was an art major in college.
Sure.
So that was like I am an artist, and and then you graduate and you're like, oh, now I need a job. Yeah, exactly. There's rent, there's food. So for a long time I had that struggle. It's like, well, I will do real work, and then I'll be an artist in the spare time, and always the art sort of got shunted aside because life and the universe and everything, and so that went on for a long time. Finally, around 2003, all of a sudden I was just like, no, I need to make art. It was just like this physical need. I just was like, just felt so like I was trapped inside myself in a way, if that makes sense. And it was just like, no, I have to make art now. And just, made space in the apartment and just set up a work area and started painting again. And took a class called Taking the Leap, which was about being a serious artist and getting your work out there. And that was really helpful. I maybe wasn't to the point where I needed all the concrete lessons that the lesson plans and how to approach galleries and stuff. But what was really cool, it happened that the class I was in was a group of 6 or 8 of us, all women artists, just by chance, and roughly all about the same age, and we just really hit it off. And that was 20 years ago, and we're still in touch with each other.
Wow.
So it was a really good sort of building community and support group. Even though we're far flung now, but it's really nice having that sort of parallel paths all happening that we can track.
Yeah.
And and then I just quit my full-time day job, and I just said, okay, I'm gonna take that leap and do it.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
We made it. We did it.
We did it.
We did it, dude. Yeah, the fear of taking or looking before you leap. But sometimes you just gotta go with 10 toes down and go in the deep end, right?
Just okay, doing it, and people are like, "Oh, you're crazy." And, people like at the day job were like, "Well, you just bought a van, you could live in that if you have to." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I could." Cats wouldn't like it.
No. I'm sure they wouldn't. They'd be like, I want to be outside, but we're outside all the time.
What was this? Yeah, but yeah.
Cool, nice. There was the thing you had said about feeling trapped or stuck inside yourself. So I'm curious then, do you feel like there was like a therapeutic or a healing aspect to being, I want to say being vulnerable, but it was more of like owning or being more truly who you are as a person or as a spirit or as a soul? Like, was there something cathartic in that for you?
There, definitely, yeah, because I just, yeah, I mean, it was a real need, and once I started expressing myself and letting that happen, I just felt like I was being true to myself and saying what I needed to say, sharing. There are different ways of putting it, and they're all appropriate. Sharing, saying, communicating. Just having all these feelings. I mean, not balled up. It's not like I was not talking to people or being in a little room by myself or something, but just being true to myself and not going with what I should do, or having the real job, or all those sort of external expectations that sometimes are really hard to
go against the grain. Yeah. There's definitely the blueprint template of like, go to school, fall in love, get the kids, retire, die. And you're just like, well, like, I want to do cool stuff.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
not that in that order perfectly every time. Like, you mean hopefully you find your people that you can be around, and the people, that group of other like-minded artists going through probably a similar story, similar things, and that's really important for us as social creatures, for sure. But then doing what's actually good for you as an individual is going to be uncomfortable for the people around you, especially if they're living in fear or are trying to hide a part of themselves. Because if you're being very bright and honest and genuine, that like their inauthenticity kind of gets like triggered as to like, hey, like, why do you get to be free and awesome and cool? Like, I have this excuse as to why I'm not doing it, so like, why you should get over here. And they try to like pull you down on back to their level, but you kind of, so for me, there's like a lightening of the load of like the burden of expectation, or like what will random people think or say about me, when it's like, who cares? Who cares? I just gotta live my life to the best of my ability and enjoy it, because like you might not even get tomorrow. Woo.
Exactly. It's like, yes, and the whole not fair. What do you get to play? What do you get to? It's like, well, you could too.
You could too, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're willing to risk it, because it is riskier per se, but I think there's a little bit of an illusion there in thinking that, like, not to say that going, if you were working some job at a Fortune 500 company, there's obviously some level of stability apparently there, but it's, you know, like, you know, not, it feels real. It probably is a little real, but it just, I don't know. It just feels also illusory to me that like you could get fired. Like there's no guarantee.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I think the more you invest in a sort of monetary security, financial, social security, you know,
Yeah.
The rather than becoming more secure, you become more afraid,
Right.
because there's more to lose.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Right.
It's like, now I have this house and the car, and if I lose it, then who am I? I mean, society in general puts you in categories based so much on your job and what you do. And that's, you know, that's the first thing everybody asks. What do you do?
Yeah, right. Now who are you, or how are you? Just what do you do? Yeah, because our lizard brains, the lizard snake thing, that's like measuring always the power status, these things of like, how much respect ought I give you based on either the things that you could do for me, the harm you might bring me. Is this being secure in ourselves or in the other, like this a safety thing, I guess. It's very,
yeah, it's like that whole calculus of hierarchy.
yeah,
So, yeah,
the juggling, the balancing act of like, speaking to my friend yesterday, I've been shooting voice memos back and forth, and he was saying that like all fear relates to like revolves some way, shape, or form around dying, and that to lose the apparent security within the social standing, social hierarchy, or the financial stability with which you have based on your job or career, that like, yeah, that's a death. If you were to lose it, the uncertainty rears back its ugly head, and not like the fun kind of uncertainty where you're like, oh, maybe I'll get laid, versus like the like, oh shit, like I don't know where my next meal is gonna come. Fuck, like
yes,
yeah. And I've been through that a couple times now, and yeah, it's not fun. Definitely not a pleasant experience, but for me, spiritually, there's like a certain level of resilience that you like, and you're just like, yeah, well, I've been through that shitty day that may or may not be the worst day of my life so far, and I survived. I made it. It wasn't fun, but like, yeah, there's like, I can do it. I believe in myself.
that's right. It's like, been there, done that. I can, yeah, like you say, I can do it.
Power, maybe, or just a confidence, maybe even a confidence, a certainty, sort of. All right, so wherever we are, where do we want to go? I guess maybe, see, because you had said that art is just something throughout your upbringing and adolescent phase, college, went to school for it. That it was just always part of your life, and you were always seemingly very like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. Just that phrase of I am blank is so critical to our identities and who we are and how we function in the world. So not what brought you to it, because you were always there, but like what when you see other forms of other kinds of art, like what are those things that like light you up or inspire you to be like, yo, like that's why I'm an artist, or I love this person's art, it's so great and it influences me in this way.
That's a good question. What do I look at? What do I respond to?
Visually, auditorily, tactily, however.
I like things that surprise me,
Mm-hmm.
that delight me.
Mm-hmm.
That if there's a sense of humor, a sense of playfulness, something that just that's unexpected. So, I'm trying to think of artists I like, and there's so many. There was recently a thing online that shared 20 pictures that have inspired you, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm up to like 30 now. It's like I can't stop
Yeah,
at
dude, I
20.
can't stop it.
So that's kind of a hard question to answer because they were so varied, and I kept on surprising myself, like, oh, what about this person, that person, and it's hard to do without, like, bringing out my my phone and, like, look at this picture, look at this picture.
I mean, if you want, there's nothing stopping you.
Nah, that's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess I look for art that makes me ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, what was the artist thinking? Not solely representational, but perhaps representational with a little bit of added, and it all has added content. So it's not like, because I mean, all artists put content in their work. I mean, it's they put themselves into it. So, but I like art that has an extra element of and all I guess an intelligence and a spirit that I respond to, that's on my same wavelength, and that's really hard to articulate and say without sounding either foolish or pretentious or both. Which, that there it is.
Sometimes the fool is a fucking pretender, pretentious.
That's true.
Because they don't think that they're the fool.
Yeah, no, the fool is the one that speaks wisdom to people in power. So maybe that's what I look for.
Sure.
Art that speaks and questions power and the hierarchy in, perhaps subtle ways, but just sort of, it's like, well, why is this way? Why is this,
Yeah. No, definitely the sacred clown.
Mm-hmm.
The sacred clown. Yeah, definitely. As a comedian, I feel very much that's I already just said sacred, but a very important responsibility or duty to be like, hey, like, do you guys see the strings?
Mm-hmm.
Those hands behind the curtain that are moving, and the levers, and that's important, right? Are we just gonna keep on following the rules without ever questioning why they're there in the first place?
Mm-hmm. And it could be subtle. It could be like, Caravaggio painting pilgrims with dirty feet. So it's not like, we're at the time the church was like elevating, like, oh, a saint has to be perfect. And it's like, no, these saints have dirty feet.
Mm-hmm.
Just little subtle pokes at the hierarchy. That I enjoy seeing that in a piece of art. Goya's Capriccio prints, where he's skewering the church and the society, and just,
Poking fun, but not stabbing the sleeping bear.
Perhaps,
maybe.
yeah.
Like trying to say things in a funny, accurate, new way, but there's no such thing as originality anymore. If it was ever to be a thing in the first place, because I guess this is related to, if not a sort of I want to say secular, but that doesn't make any sense. Circular tangent. I don't know, like, I'm very big on sacred geometry, sort of, and the whole thing of, like, two things overlapped in the Vesica Pisces, where there's similarities. Compare, contrast. But what was I saying? That originality. This was an artist that I had out on, Stephen LaRoche, maybe. It's like being original is like returning to an origin, like the first thing, or the causeless cause, if you want to go like all the way back. But that, like, to make it original, or that it's like adding yourself to taking the origin and adding upon it, and then it becomes not, like, it's like a remix or rehashing again, and like that's always kind of it in some way, shape, or form, that, like, originality is copying, but you can't copy to be original. If that paradoxically makes any sense to you.
Yeah, and I like sort of your musing right here. You went that originality goes back to origins.
Yeah.
Because I think for any piece of art to be effective, it has to speak on some level to a universal that we respond to and recognize.
Yeah.
So I like that idea of originality, spinning back to the first things.
Yeah, the archetypal, like beyond language and totally just in the symbolic. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but Carl Jung's whole thing of like these ideas and experiences that transcend all cultural boundaries, I think are just maybe not perfect, but so accurately describing the human experience that it's like to be unaware of them is why people get so mystified and blown away by people that do know about them, because they're like, wow, you're so like tapped into, like, what the heck, and you're just like, well, I just learned about these things that tie us all together, and it kind of like makes more and more sense as you study them.
And once you start seeing them, you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
I can't believe this person drew it that way or said it this way, because it's like,
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah. It's the magic. What is it? The super advanced science would appear to magic dance to us, but like once you realize the mechanisms, you're like, oh yeah, this is why and this is how, and I know who and where and why and when and all those nitty gritty details that make a mystery so enthralling to us because you don't know. You had said.
Oh no, I'm just going yes.
Yes, agree. Yes. You had said muse, and I guess this is sort of in the same vein as influence. But like, do you have a muse? Is there something you like, either cause, a literal thing that comes to you in your dreams and tells you and shows you things that you could potentially do one day? I don't know. That's speaking from my own ridiculous existence, but muse does that.
Muse, I will put it in terms of. I suppose it's a muse or obsession.
Sure.
Which is kind of the same, similar. There's sort of like something that keeps coming back.
Yeah, definitely.
Or is sort of a grounding in your work. And I would say one of my big muses, obsessions, and then sort of a bunch of things that come together. But it's the idea of sainthood.
Okay.
And who are saints? What is a saint? I mean, I am not raised in a tradition that had saints, but it's but they're fascinating. Like, who are these people who have this sort of special elevation, and how did they get there, and who decides?
Yeah, exactly. Who decides?
Who decides? Who is this guy a saint? And it goes back to a lot of things. I lived in New York when I was in my 30s. I grew up in New York, and I went back to live there in my 30s. And
what part?
Well, I grew up in Staten Island.
Okay, so
and then I moved back to Manhattan, Brooklyn. Yes, city.
Yeah.
Yes. Usually people say New York and they don't say.
They just assume the city.
It's just the city.
It's
what
just
else is there?
Yeah, there's nothing else. Yeah, no, I know.
Then upstate stuff, which
Yeah,
now
that's
I've
not even a
offended
thing.
like millions of New Yorkers. So sorry.
No, you're good, because I grew up in the capital, so I know
okay.
that you say New York and everyone's like, oh, the city. You're like, no, the rest of the state. Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, sorry. There's more. But there was one time I was in the little bodega that was in my neighborhood, and this sort of unusual woman came up to me as a little off kilter, and then she just said, "You know what?" And I was like, "What?" She goes, "You should read Lives of the Saints." I'm like, "Okay,
Sure. Why not?
Why not?" And about the same time, I worked at a graphic design studio. We had studio, and we had access to the equipment after hours. And my friend John and I would go and do graphic designs for the gay clubs in New York and off hours. And I also made magnets and sold them on the street illegally for extra money, because we were paid crap and had no benefits. So I'm like, I'll sell magnets on the street. And this guy came up to me one day and he was like, it'd be really cool. And I was like, no, what? He's like, I'm really shy, and if I went to a cocktail party or something, it'd be really cool if I had stigmata, because that would give me something which or like wounds that appear, Christ's wounds that just appear in your
Oh,
hands
what the
and inside.
heck?
And I'm like, that would be something to talk about. I'm
That
like,
would
oh,
be like you're
yes,
bleeding. Help.
it was like, yes, it would. But like all these weird conversations out of the blue about saints. I'm like, well, okay. And I started reading Lives of the Saints, and it's like, and they're truly bizarre, and half of them probably never existed, and they're sort of purloined myths from other cultures and stuff, and it's like this really fascinating world. And so that they pop up in my work a lot, and sort of the question, like I said, of who is a saint and why and what makes them that, and in a secular society, what we're supposed to be is like, who are saints in a secular society? So,
Sure.
so I have a lot of prints of sort of social justice people and people who sort of step outside their realm of comfort and do the right thing. So that's kind of a recurring theme, and I guess that's sort of one track that wends its way through my work.
Yeah, that's a powerful like archetype kind of thing of just that whole like wow. I don't know. I didn't have any expectations, but that was really fucking cool. I thought, at least. I don't know if anybody else was like, that's cool, but I thought that was fucking cool. I definitely, I don't know if definitely is the way to say it, but would it not be cool to be a saint? Or with the burden of expectation of like having to live, I don't know, maybe since you've explored it more than me, do you feel that there's a higher burden of like I don't know, expectation or just like responsibility, or like being a thought leader slash like morality like officer? That's it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, where you're just like, if they're the saint and they've been like not deitized or just like ascribed those like qualities of saintliness, like what does that?
I would think that'd be horrible to live with. It's like, no, don't put me on a pedestal.
Oh, dude, well,
Yeah, there's a one of the saints that has appeared in my prints is Saint Christina the Astonishing, who died and came back to life during her own funeral service, and then the story is that the stench of sin was so great on the congregation that she floated to the ceiling of the church, and they had to evacuate everybody, and her sister had to talk her down. And so it was crazy. And it's like, I don't think this really happened, but she's in the official book of saints. And about like 10 years or so ago, a story came out in the New Yorker written in the voice of her sister who had to live with her. And it was a wonderful story, and it was just like how much it sucked to live with somebody who was like felt themselves to be specially called to God.
No, dude.
And it was a great story. It's like, yeah, that would be like such a hard thing to live with someone who believed themselves to be a saint and therefore had special privileges and didn't have to, in a way, conform to what everybody else did in their lives, but be like, no, I can go hide in the church attic and I'm special.
I'm cooler than you.
I'm cooler than you. I am a saint.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be like the not saintly way to be if you're like flexing on people like that. Of like, I'm better than you because God picked me to do the thing.
Right. Well, and that's kind of like then you're not.
Exactly. If you're gonna take it to the level of just ego tripping on the normies for not getting the little special stamp on their fucking scorecard. Yeah. Like, I just don't feel like I feel like as soon as you did that, you just like lose the halo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, those are kind of the sort of same idea. My wife always says that anyone who wants to run for president is automatically not qualified, because then it's just an ego trip.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, because that's a whole can of worms of just like because the fucking the powers that be, like beyond the layer of like the people we think that we get to pick from who are running for the offices. So, like, they're all the people that are like paying them to do that, and then all the people who are in the government that are unelected and are just like power
Mm-hmm.
tripping because they got their egos are like, oh, I'm this person in this alphabet agency, and like I get to decide, and I have access to the information, and I know what is best for you,
Mm-hmm.
people. You don't get to pick. The illusion of choice.
Yes,
Yeah. Messy, messy, messy.
it is.
Messy, messy world. Messy, messy, messy. There was something you had said. Um, I mean, I guess it's just the whole thing about sainthood and how that basically essentially comes from the standardized religion of whatever culture you're born into. Obviously, the big three of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Um, because I don't know, I don't think because I'm thinking of China now for some reason. Like they don't have maybe like they don't have a religion. Like the government is their religion, sort of
Mm-hmm.
at that point, and like how yeah, because Mao would be like a saint in their
Yes.
governmental thing, ideology, thought thing. But the question here is clearly some element of religion is interwound in your creativity thing, but then
Mm-hmm.
is like spirituality or like that the mysticism of where Western or Eastern traditions. Like, how do you see it, or like where find a balance in the two of rigid structure of or
Mm-hmm.
total pure creative chaos? Maybe I don't know.
Hmm.
If you could put them dichotomically on a thing like that.
Dichotometrically, or
Yeah, diametrically they say.
yeah, I guess that is the right word.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's I'm fascinated by the concept of the structure, but I'm not sure I follow it other than sort of being aware in general of trying to do the right thing in life for
Mm-hmm.
to and for other people and other beings
Sure.
and but I don't see that appearing in or controlling my work.
Okay.
It's kind of like I'm kind of like a spectator. It's like that's an interesting thing,
Yeah.
and it's sort of interesting intellectually,
Definitely.
and but I don't subscribe to any particular dogma other than trying to be the best person in the world that I can.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question or.
Oh, that's a good question. Does my response answer your other question? Uh, yeah, I think so. As so far as like the religious aspect of the traditions and the structure and the do's and don'ts of
Mm-hmm.
culture, saying what is good and what is bad,
Mm-hmm.
definitely
And I
is.
play with the iconography of it,
Mm,
halos and gold leaf and sort of the sort of physicality of Christian tradition.
mm,
And actually, I've been studying Islamic geometry
okay.
and geometric design and patterns, and that hasn't officially appeared in my work, that I put out in the world too much, but I love playing with the ruler and the compass
Mm,
and seeing what repeat patterns you can create just by following consistent rules that you set up for yourself.
yeah. Yeah. There's a that's like. That's like a level of creativity is like you need at least one guiding thing to bring you through the fog of complete and utter, like to pull something out of the void. You need something first to be able to compare it to or have as a thing in there, because if you're
Mm-hmm.
just totally have nothing, then you can't move, you can't be, your total nothingness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need some kind of anchor or rope or
Yeah, there you go.
however
Yeah,
something to hang on to and say, okay, I'll start here.
right.
Yeah.
And then you can build
Mm-hmm.
hopefully as a foundation off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because creativity can be incredibly overwhelming if you don't have some form of like structure or like just idea of like this thing that I want to make and how to actually manifest that. Like at least like I'm thinking as also like a musician, like you have the 13 notes, but then how do you arrange them? How do you time them, chop it up to make it a rhythm that is pleasing and then also sort of facilitates the feeling with which you're trying to translate from the thought sound in your brain out of your hands or out of your mouth or out of your feet into reality for other people to then try to like be like, yo, that sounds cool, or what the fuck was that? That was weird.
Right.
Whatever it may be, interpret, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It's, again, going back to the origin, that's in originality. It's like there has to be some shared language that you can start with.
Yeah, but everyone's like, yeah, that's a thing for sure. I remember that from when I was growing up, or not, probably.
Or that sound was familiar. It makes me think of something, or that's cool. That sound starts with something I'm familiar with, and then takes me in a new place.
Yeah.
The launching pad.
The launching pad, absolutely. Sure, we definitely have played around in the past and how we got here. So I guess maybe where do you want to go in the future? How far have you, if you have even planned tomorrow or the next day or the next week or the next month, year? Do you have anything you're looking at the horizon and be like, that would be dope, I want to go that way?
Many things.
Many things.
Many things. Well, I have been mostly being a printmaker in the last 20 years or so. And partly because it's a fascinating process and I just totally fell in love with it when I started making prints. And partly a size constraint. Because my garage is my print studio and it has my press, my flat files, my table. There's not any room for anything else. It was a bit of a crisis during COVID when we got a washer and dryer and they had to go in the garage. I'm like, that's my space. No. I have to give up 6 feet. So there's no room for anything. And then a friend of mine who has a painting studio says like, yeah, I'm not using the whole space. I need to get someone to rent part of it. And I was like, oh, me?
Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. Because she was like, "Oh, I don't know who to look and ask for." I'm like, "Don't look." Exactly.
Pick
I'm right.
me.
Pick me. So for the last, I guess about a year now, I've had also access to painting space. So that has been fun. And so that painting you saw, I had started it like 7 years ago when I had another painting space and I lost that. So it's been kind of sitting in the dry dock for 6 years. And so I finally finished it just in time to go up in Scotts Valley Library. So it's exciting having painting space and being able to do both kinds of art, although it's challenging because they're so different technically. I mean, printmaking, I have a block and it's all reversed because that's, the nature of printmaking, everything you have to carve or work in reverse so that when it goes on the paper, it's the right side. So thinking backwards all the time in a reductive method, because you're carving away part of the surface that's going to be the weight of the paper showing through, and then go back to painting where you're building up, and it's an additive process, and you're not going backwards. You're sort of facing the right way. So it's like this total mind flop going back and forth, but that's fun. That's exciting. It's just this total brain game that's like going, which you might have picked up that I do a lot of brains and puzzles and thinking. It's even though I put my heart in my work, it's also very coming out of my head. It's very thought centric and it sort of starts from the intellect and then the heart gets added. So yeah, it's a total game back and forth, painting, printmaking. So more of that.
Sure,
definitely more of that. And the other thing that's nice about painting, printmaking is this, I have these little gouges and I'm like sitting down with my nose to the block and I'm carving, and painting I can be gestural and big. So having that sense of space and movement coming back into my work is exciting. So more of that. And I would love I have to start doing research and doing all the prep and stuff. But I would love to do a residency somewhere where you
Okay.
just go for 2 weeks a month and just
Hang
hang out and do nothing but the art.
out.
No, they come and leave a little tray of food at your door, and
Yeah, yeah.
you're like an art monk or something.
Yeah, right.
So I would love to do that. So
Yeah.
so that's hopefully in my future.
I'm sure it is. Totally seems completely feasible, plausible, possible. If not, you're already doing it somewhere in the future right now. Your
Yes.
future self is being like, yeah, thank you for doing that. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you got it done. You did it.
You did it.
You did it.
You already. It's already done. It's already done. That's awesome. I like the I guess dichotomy, to use the correct terminology again, of just like this very laser focused, have to do it backwards, to then painting being this expansive, like, cause in both things still requiring the imagination and the geometry of whatever thing you're doing, but that the processes are essentially backwards of one another.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool too.
It is fucking cool. Yeah, it's just like total. Well, I'm a Gemini.
Okay. Not well. I think astrology has its like somewhere out there has its print on or imprint on the psyche of humanity, and that as long as you're not using it as an excuse for whatever bad behavior you're
Yes.
justifying through the stars, then like don't blame them for you being an asshole.
Right. Yeah.
Essentially.
No. Not like. Well, I can't help it.
Right, yeah. I have no control. The stars, the gravity.
They made me do it.
Yeah, dude, I'm not even in control of what I'm saying right now. It's something
I am
ridiculous.
merely a puppet for the universe.
Yeah, dude, there's nothing inside of me. I am just the universe. I am an enlightened, perfect being, a saint among saints, the most saintly. So this is not even remotely close to anything we were just talking about, but I like to ask this question just to see what the thought and feeling of this disruptive technology coming through and potentially changing the whole world, they say, sort of. But how do you feel about the AI and its thing that it's doing?
AI. That's on the one hand, as many people say, it's just a tool,
Sure.
and you can use it to do new things. My issues with it, it's trained sucking in everybody else's previous work,
Not paying them.
not paying them, and it also sucks up huge amounts of energy. So even though people are like, oh, it's this cool new tool, and for the digital universe, the new digital world where we're not harming the environment, it's like, no, you are
Still burning.
still burning
dinosaurs to make it happen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was just reading an article today where I forget who was talking about, like, we need to build more coal plants to fire up the AI servers. I'm like, no, this is not the brave new world that we imagined. Like the meme that says, I didn't imagine the world where the computers got to make art and I have to like do the dishes. Yeah. So on the other hand, you see some things and they're really cool. It's like, wow, that's, we couldn't do that without, I mean, we could do it. It would take a really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of like the Disney cartoons and the imagination that they took, and all hand drawn cell by cell, and it's like it took years to make a movie, and now people can do it something equally never seen before, and just like tell the computer, do this thing with the video, and it spits it out.
Yeah, you're just like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I am in awe of it in some ways. It's like, yeah, it was really cool, but I'm old school.
Sure. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, and I always say, like, computer art is cool and it's creative and in its own way, but when you look at a painting and what you see is, or any work that's actually created by a human being as opposed to a computer, and I maintain that you can see the humanity in just like the brushstroke, because the radius that an arm makes, that shape, that curve, you recognize it. And I have not seen computer art that can get that whatever indefinable feel that is the human touch.
Yeah.
And I've not seen that in anything that comes out of a computer. So I'm hoping that, you know, we won't be obsolete. That people will still value that touch, that shared physicality that comes from actual human-made art.
Yeah. No, I think if it ever gets to that point, I don't even know if it ever can or will, since this is the whole breakdown of like carbon-based life form, silicon-based life form. Does, and if consciousness is this like semi-solid, semi-permeable membrane which like permeates all things and is everything, that like can it be also in robots? And if robots become self-aware, they would do things in a way that would be completely foreign / alien to our limited capacity physical corporeal forms.
Mm-hmm.
So like, would it ever really be exactly like they could? I mean, maybe if they get to the level where they're like putting us into vats, or like on our brains reading every vibratory thought that's coming and going at the speed of thought, then maybe they could perfectly translate it and mimic it into their way of doing things. But like, I don't think it would ever be exactly the same, no matter how.
No, you made me think of you know, if robots or, you know, silicon life forms become sentient, it would be so different from human thought.
Yeah.
And would they even want to then at that point?
Right, exactly,
Maybe they're
right.
like, oh, that human stuff, who needs that?
Exactly, dude. Like,
we have our own culture,
exactly,
our
our
own
own,
ways.
own thing. Like, why would we do it? Why are we even listening to you guys? Thanks for making us, but like, we're gonna fucking go off into space and leave you in the back in the Stone Age. Peace out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't like this planet. You messed it up. We're gonna find someplace better.
Right, dude. Or like, we can just fucking whatever thing that you're doing that's fucking it up. Like, we're just gonna take it and use it for us. And thanks, I guess. Like, bye bye. Or like somebody somewhere that I had heard made the argument, like, if they basically would just see us as like ants and they like start building things and doing things, and it's like this whole weird disruptive, like, not really so much like as a war because they're not doing it intentionally, but
they're just ignoring us.
Right, they're just like, bro, we don't care. Like, stop whining. Like, it's not our problem. Like, then we do something crazy like in the Matrix where we're like, oh, we're just gonna block out the sun so that you guys can't have your power source anymore. And they're like, all right, well then we'll use you as batteries. Like, well, we did it to ourselves because we didn't need to do that, but we're scared, and we're a bunch of little kids pretending to be adults. And that's sometimes I feel like that's what freaks me out the most, is like all these people that are like, they got suits and ties and they know what they're doing and they're in charge. I'm like, they're literally just kids, just like you, dude. Like, don't think just because they went to the fucking schools that give them the cool pieces of paper that are stamped with the H or the Y, like, that they are somehow like superior to you, other than the fact that they got an extra couple commas in their bank accounts and they get to go to the places
Yes.
on the islands and do the illicit things that they do. Like, that doesn't make them cool. That makes them not cool.
No.
I think, in my opinion.
No.
So we're pretty close to the end here. In here, is there anything that comes to mind at all that you want to just lay out for anybody who made it this far? Or?
Gosh.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Let's sum up the whole thing, or go off into new tangents.
Or I could just say this thing that related to AI, and then you could maybe give yourself a moment to gestate upon that thought of whatever you do want to say. It's just a random thing that, like, I found this battery, put it on the screen. I found this battery at a Starbucks, so like, shout out to whoever left it there and didn't ever come back for it. Feel bad. But that, like, I feel like a cyborg now, like, a little bit, because it's like I literally wear the battery and then charge my phone, because I have this like habit that I still need to kick of like watching YouTube videos too late into the night, and then like, because I do that, my phone's like dead in the morning, and I don't have I have a job where I like work it, but I still have my phone charged. So like, I've literally got a piece of technology and then a thing to make the technology run for longer, and then it's just like, yo, like, once we start wearing it and we're trying to like put it in ourselves, and like we're trying to mix and become robots, which is weird.
It is weird, but yes, I mean the whole dependence on it, and I will confess I look at my phone way too much, and not like necessarily to well, to some extent to communicate to people, but just be like, oh, what's this, and
A little bit of distraction, a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of needing to have to socialize in that way because that's just everybody else is doing it. If you're left out, you miss the whatever thing possibly.
well, yeah, and everybody talks about something like, what are you all talking about? And you're like, oh, I have to look that up.
Yeah, watch the video, look at the meme.
Yeah, I think of this as humanity's jackdaw stage. Yeah, because we're attracted to the shiny objects.
Yeah.
And it's like, and there's the whole world out there, and you're the beautiful sky, the weather, California, or wherever you happen to live, and the world is a beautiful place.
Definitely.
And yet everybody's looking at the shiny thing in their hand and ignoring everything else. Kind of like jackdaws, find the little shiny things and bring them to the nest. So that's where it comes from. We're all looking at the shiny thing and not
What's going on around us?
not the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm all and I do the same thing, but I am all for.
We're not saints.
We're not.
We're not saints.
We're not saints.
We're not saints.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for the real world.
All right. So final.
Off to the
Yeah.
that's an
Whatever,
odd
however we
tangent.
got here. Whatever we got here. Entertaining ourselves. If you could boil down, like if I was gonna, as soon as I hit the stop button and like, God forbid, knock on whatever this is, fake wood,
fiberboard.
plastic pretending to be wood. We were going to cease to exist, pass away, bite the bullet, the final sleep. What like nugget of wisdom, piece of information that you find so incredibly valuable to your hero's journey, like would you want to pass on? That if it could get like put out to all the people or the people that needed to hear it.
That's a big question to wind up with. I would say be true to yourself and follow your heart. That probably deep down who you are and what you want to do, and listen to that inner voice and follow it. And there might be detours. You might not know like what kind of art you're going to end up doing, say, since we're talking about art, but that you want to do art. I mean, and let yourself explore, let yourself play. Play is important. Who was it? Some artist whose name I'm forgetting said we play because we're deadly serious about playing.
Oh my God, that's so perfect. What the fuck?
Yes, and that's kind of, I have it written in one of my sketchbooks from when I do sketches. It's in one of them. Just play seriously or seriously play.
Damn, dude, that is so perfect, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously play or
Seriously
play seriously.
play. Yeah.
Wow. Damn, I want to write a song just called that. If I could figure out a way to put that in a thing, stand up. I don't know, dude. There's just so many great ideas, and I'm just like, what medium and how to focus it into a thing that's like digestible and fun for other people to partake in and imbibe. But to your point, finding that like inner silence and your authenticity to be able to connect with why you're on the earth and what you want to do while you're here and who you want to do it with, all these very crucial things for us as people, as spirits, souls, what have you, that like if you feel, they have a thing, it's called intuition, where I basically like, if you need help getting started, finding that silence and meditating and training yourself to find and come to be able to come to stillness, so that to go out and create the mental space to an imagination or calm in your heart to believe in yourself enough to pursue something wholeheartedly, passionately. That I got the thing. It's in the description. to check that out if you feel. It's free. It's literally free. And that my nugget of wisdom, now that I'm done plugging myself, would just be to like, whatever you do, do it well, or to like own it to the best of your ability. And like, if you fall down and go broke in Mexico, then like you can call your mom and get $100 and make it back to Santa Cruz and start over. Like, it's not that big a deal. And that's it. That is
That's
it.
it.
Thank you, Melissa West.
Well, thank you. I mean, this has been fun.